What's going on, everyone? This is Robbie Rollup. Welcome back to the Rollup. We are pleased to have Fig on the channel today. Fig is co-founder of Squid. Fig, it's great to have you on. Before I start rambling too much, how are you feeling?
Hey, Robbie. Yeah, feeling good. Excited to be chatting, and yeah, I'm up late in Australia on European time, and yeah,
Very
super
cool.
excited to chat.
Yeah, so maybe we can start with like a first principles sort of approach here. Like Squid is doing lots of like routing and cross-chain messaging. Before we get into Squid in particular, maybe you could kind of like build your mental model for how you see the multi-chain world at this point.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so how we got to this point. I guess it all started with Bitcoin. Bitcoin gave us ownership, digital ownership, and the ability to transfer money around and keep an account of something. And then Ethereum came in and made that programmable. So you do everything. You can program rules into your money, and then you can also create these systems that don't have, no one can cheat, not even the owner of the game, or even the government can cheat. And with DeFi Summer in 2020, we started to see like the possibilities of this, and like everyone got super excited. We saw like thousands of applications and startups being created, but like immediately, not or almost immediately, ran into this scaling issue. Like I remember transactions were I remember paying like $250 for a Curve transaction or something, and at that point it was almost surreal. You would obviously never do that now, but we have this scaling issue, and we had all these ideas. Everyone wanted to like be creative, build new things, but the way we decided, well, at least the ecosystem is going towards doing that, is through rollups and through app chains. Alternative layer ones like Solana, Avalanche, rollups like Arbitrum, Optimism Base. And I remember in that 2021 season, everyone was going to these new environments, these new rollups and app chains to explore the new ecosystems, that like find out what it's like to have a 2-cent transaction again, or chasing incentives around. And every time you went to a new one, you had to think about how you were going to get your funds over there. You had to understand how this new chain worked, download potentially a new wallet, and you had to bridge funds over there. And bridging was always this, in crypto, every time you go to a new website, you don't know if it's going to be a scam or not until you've actually like successfully done your transaction, right? So every time you tried a new bridge, it was another really scary experience. And people, like, we were all a bunch of nerds, and it was taking us like days to, well, at least hours to just work out how to get our money around. So there was clearly this need of, we have programmable money and ownership, which is like amazing and exciting, but we need to scale that so that we can run like any trade in like the world's whole trade system using this infrastructure. And what that ends up looking like is hopefully, or probably, a bunch of rollups and some other chains working as well. A bit like you've got, AWS manages thousands of servers. You've got Google Cloud, people run their own servers. And then you have the internet connecting all of them, so that they're running almost like a single system. When the user goes to a website, you put something into the the search bar or the URL, and maybe it hits hundreds of different servers at once just to get your action done. And that's what we're trying to do with cross-chain. Is this almost internet connecting all the blockchain and rollups up. So when you do an action, you don't have to go to a new website, try out something that you've never done before, or even go into the code and touch the infrastructure yourself. You get this internet-like experience where you just open up your app, you do an action, and maybe it touches a DEX on one chain, then lending protocol over here, and then it buys an NFT, it does a payment, something else. Could be as many things as you'd like, but it all happens in one click, and without you ever knowing that all of that infrastructure is working for you. So it's really like I see the cross-chain space as this like UX layer on top of all of this in scaling infrastructure that we have for blockchains. And I think we're getting really close to now enabling that next level of like fully scalable apps to be built, and like maintaining good user experience.
Yeah, I love the premise that Bitcoin gave us programmable money, and I think from that, like this whole, so then the natural next step in that sequence is like, well, money is a lot more than just cash sitting in your wallet. So Bitcoin sitting in a wallet is good. It builds a strong foundation for programmable money, but money is also fluid in this entire, money is part of the economy. So we had like this programmable money that could sit in a wallet, and then the natural next step was building out the rest of this programmable economy. And then Ethereum came along and was like Ethereum kind of lets you do that. It kind of lets you build out these like economic Legos, money Legos, that you can fit together for economic functions, whether it's lending or it's borrowing or it's trading. These kind of like mercantile functions start to fit together, and then you can use the programmable money sitting in your wallet, and you can program it to do certain things. Like you can program it to earn interest, or you can program it to serve as this counterparty for other people's trades. And then from there, we started to build out this programmable economy that was made of programmable money. So I want to dig into, like, I'm still, I think, and maybe like those who are watching, like, are trying to break into this like interconnectivity space, because I think the premise of Bitcoin with programmable money is easy to understand. And then I think the 1 to 2 of a programmable economy is also relatively intuitive.
Mm-hmm.
So then the next step is like the infrastructure piece. And I've also heard, we were on a space with the founder of Connext, and he mentioned how a lot of these blockchain projects are inherently infrastructure. And I'm curious if you have a similar opinion about the state of these blockchain apps and how they connect together. Because cross-chain, as you mentioned, is the UX layer. And then we have this infrastructure running in the background that kind of like points our transactions to these different chains and these money programs that are running on separate chains. So maybe we can reconcile like the infrastructure pieces that connect this together with the pieces that are ultimately consumer facing. Like, what in this space is everything infrastructure, or are there certain applications or projects that are not, all of the infrastructure is what they're running on. That's not what they're focused on. Maybe we can reconcile this difference between infrastructure and whatever else, exists in this space.
Yeah. I'd agree with Arjun from Connext. If that's who it was, I think most of what's in the space right now is infrastructure, and even this UX stuff in cross-chain is still effectively, it's infrastructure that allows you to build really good flows. And then that's the magical question, right? Like, what's the use case of crypto? Like, what's this thing that we're building towards? I think one like use case which is proven is the Bitcoin one, which is just owning currency or owning value on the internet. And DeFi, I think, is also fairly proven. So simply just owning value, trading for something else, maybe depositing it if you're lucky, but just that very simple sending value around and swapping it is a proven use case, I think. So there are some, you see the wallets, for example, are almost like bank accounts. You have all of your balances and you can send them to your friend, or you can trade as if you were trading on the stock market. So at least that use case is there. I mean, cross-chain is a perfect example for that, because like you have these wallets. You imagine someone more like new to crypto might have in their wallet, and it supports Avalanche, Ethereum, probably like the ARB token, BTC. And they, for some reason, like without cross-chain infrastructure, the wallet might have been able to let you swap between ETH and USDC, but it wouldn't have let you swap between AVAX and ETH, because they're actually different chains. And that's like a point where you just get this like dead end where cross-chain opens it all up, and suddenly the user they don't have to care they're on different chains. They just swap between AVAX, ETH, BTC. And you talked about the infrastructure pieces. So bridges, I'll just quickly explain how I see bridges. So blockchains are just these, they're these environments. It's like a country. Vitalik always says that, right? And a country has its government, has its own rules, and then it has its own currency. And in order to make a trade between two countries, you need some kind of agreement between them. And a bridge is essentially that. It's like a cryptographically proven agreement between two trustless environments, so two different blockchains. Or if you can't make it completely proven, then it's some other form of trust, like you could have a blockchain, for example, like an entire blockchain, which is just almost the adjudicator of this international trade. So there's a few different architectures for bridges. Maybe we don't go into them now, but behind the scenes, those are doing a lot of work, just verifying that money is being sent between countries. And then in the wallet, all the user needs to see is like my euros are being converted to USD, or in the crypto world, like my ETH is being converted to AVAX.
Yeah. I'd love to dive deeper into this architecture, because there's the design that has been proven to work in the trusted environment of this. Like before we had programmable money, we still have this traditional financial, ecosystem and economy. And there's kind of these economic functions that help the economy run smoothly in that world. I think in the crypto world, in the blockchain world, we see a lot of the inefficiencies that occur in the traditional financial ecosystem on a daily basis. And then we are working to solve those, regularly in this DeFi and blockchain world. So I'm curious, like there are functions that have been proven to work in that traditional financial world. And I think when we kind of re-architect this new financial economy, like we want to take the pieces that work and then scrap away the pieces that don't work. So one of the things that I've kind of like became more familiar with, and I'm DeFi native, so I was kind of learning these traditional financial concepts as like to fill in my overall financial knowledge. So I kind of learned the DeFi first principles first about decentralization, and then kind of learned some of the more functional pieces of the traditional economy a little bit later. And that's through my lens. I started to become recently familiar with like the separation of order flow and liquidity. And in the traditional financial model, there's brokers who broker liquidity and trades to the orders that are coming through their platform. And then those orders end up settling with the liquidity that lies on the exchange. So a great example of this is you have, and I might have kind of messed that explanation up because these concepts like are not super intuitive to me, but as I understand it, we have something like IB, which is international brokers. And that is essentially a front end for the liquidity on, say, the NASDAQ. So if I'm looking to place a trade for, one share of Apple, I might place that trade on, So let's say I'm placing a very, very large trade. Maybe I want to buy 1 million shares of Apple. So then I place that trade on IB. IB is then going to route my order to NASDAQ and the Intercontinental Exchange and, a whole bunch of other like exchanges to fill that order with the liquidity that's resting on those exchange order books.
Hmm.
So like combining this traditional financial mechanism with some of the concepts that we think about in blockchain as these almost like these like domiciled countries, I tend to think like we'll have kind of these app chains, and maybe we can get into like what the UX and the infrastructure separation is. Like we will have this UX that receives order flow, and then there's a series of economic functions that function either exchanges or money markets or other infrastructure types of pieces that are able to like settle and kind of perform these economic functions. We'll have kind of these brokers that are able to send order flow for whatever reason to these different economic venues to perform those functions.
Yeah. Do you want me? I get into it. So I'll try to build up some kind of mental model. So we've got settlement, like you said, in the traditional system. Settlement is essentially you have two parties and they've agreed to trade their money, and then the settlement is like actually exchanging the money. Like you have usually some kind of third party, like an arbitrator or an exchange broker, like whatever you might call them. Lots of different ways in the traditional finance system of doing it, but generally you need some kind of umpire to do the transaction, to settle it. And the beautiful thing about crypto is that arbitrator is the blockchain, and a block is all you need to settle a transaction. So it's like instant. And then the other beautiful thing is that there's so many different ways you could potentially, different types of trades, different like derivatives, different financial agreements, even just sending money, swapping it, whatever, like lending, all these different things can be programmed like in code rather than needing another new like complex arbitration system. You just have this single blockchain, one place where you can like do any type of settlement. And then you get into the cross-chain world and you have two different countries and you need international settlement. You need some kind of like who's the person who has the final say if something goes wrong. Like one person doesn't give the money and the other person does, then you need some kind of like, who is it? Is it like the UN or something? But there's ways they do it in the traditional system, but in crypto, that's why cross-chain is. It's like you can do cross-chain settlement using these different verification methods that we have. And so once you have this, you can settle anything, you can settle between anyone. Then you're able to like build up this user experience, which can actually use lots of different systems at once. So like what we do at Squid, for example, we aggregate different sources of liquidity. So it might be, sometimes it's just simply a wrapping contract, which is where you can wrap like a stable coin into another stable coin or ETH into a stable coin, or you can do a swap in a DEX. You can use a lending pool. You can do sourcing other types of liquidity as well. And because it's all interoperable with cross-chain, with the blockchains running underneath them, the user can get their intent executed across all of these different things at once. Like you said, if they have like $1 million trade, we can split it up into like 200K goes here, 100K goes there. And it's really easy to do that in comparison with the financial system. Like imagine you'd need to build some like crazy bank account that like plugs into NASDAQ, plugs into like the Brazilian markets, like plugs into like a pawn shop in Europe. Like with crypto, you can actually do that. You can just access everything and get the best price from anywhere. And you create this like perfectly competitive market, which allows you like small innovators to win if they've got a better product. Like everything is working better, and like that gets me excited about crypto.
Amazing. And it's built for super scale. Like you said, if you were to plug in, you can use IB, but take any of these brokers. Like, they can plug into the NASDAQ, they can plug into maybe a couple of other exchange, but they can't plug into that pawn shop in Georgia. They can't plug into the like commercial bank in London, or the retail money market in Indonesia. Like, they just don't have the vastness of connectivity that crypto and blockchains do, because of their programmable nature.
Yeah, exactly. And like there's an argument that like the FUDers would say, in the traditional markets, maybe you don't want that, because can you trust the pawnbroker in this place? But in crypto, you generally can. Like, you don't have to trust anyone. That's part of the thing. And then the other thing is, this is like very tech industry. It's less trad. So, tech, time and time again, is a place where simply like two really smart people from like who are nobodies are able to build something which is actually useful and like improves like maybe like liquidity or the user experience for everyone. So is this nice sort of, it's the kind of environment that benefits from that that real openness. And we've already seen it with DeFi, and hopefully now with rollups and app chains, we'll see it even more. Like, it's built to scale, and hopefully the gas prices will stay fairly manageable for all of us.
Yeah. So that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, on your first point about, whether or not you would want to connect to the pawn shop in, Sydney, like I would want the option to, right? Even if I don't, like, I would want the option in order to like connect to any kind of financial institution that I would so choose, no matter how degen or how mega, and then the second point that you bring up about tech, like, that I think just is able to like bring people together. It kind of adds this like scientific, like almost like more, scientific, mathematical approach, evidence-based approach to scaling, that I think was lacking in kind of like the traditional business of finance, where a lot of it was handshake deals. It was more, maybe it was more about the people than it was about the money, right?
Yeah.
Which I think, I mean, I love people, right? But like, if we're talking about finance, maybe we want to make sure that it's about the money, right? So like,
yeah.
picking and choosing, the right functionality to build into it, like, is a matter of architecture. And then I think maybe the last thing that we could touch on is, particularly at Squid, what you guys are building towards, and how you're kind of on the cutting edge of fintech. Like, we're kind of still in this like hyper financialization of almost everything, social followings, identities, and combining that with the technology piece of it. We're iterating on that very, very quickly. So how do you see Squid fitting into like either the finance world, the tech world, or particularly within the fintech world?
Yeah, I mean, I think nice metaphors for Squid. If people are familiar with Stripe, Visa, TransferWise, all of these services allow businesses to connect and transact no matter where they are. TransferWise, or it's now called Wise, allows you to do foreign exchange. Visa actually has like its own liquidity network and connects into the into the wires of sending money all over the world. Allows you to do payments, obviously, with cards. And that's how we see it with Squid. It's this infrastructure which is for payments and also for trading. Like, we don't actually have our own trading systems or anything. We just access liquidity, like we were talking about. So as innovation and the best prices are, improved upon in the ecosystem, we always have access to that. The whole idea is that we're not opinionated about that. We can always get the same price that if you did your research yourself, except we do it all in one click and in like under 20 seconds. So we're trying to work towards this similar to Web2 experience where you go shopping and you just buy a product with your credit card. Like in Web3, it might be by signing with your wallet, but as we get account abstraction and like more things like that, maybe you just log in with your email and you can buy. But under the hood, it's powered by Squid, because maybe this application which you can power, which you're buying something with, or this financial product which someone is offering, is on a different blockchain or rollup. And conversely, when you're building a fintech application, you don't want to have to choose to build it in the environment where the users are. Like maybe like 𝗵𝗵𝗶𝗵𝗵, for example, who we're working with, they probably wouldn't be able to do what they're doing if they just deployed it on Arbitrum, for example. They have a really specific application. They've had to build a whole blockchain before, except they didn't want to compromise on being able to access all of the users. Like there's so many users on Arbitrum, Optimism, Ethereum mainnet, and what we're doing for them is they have built their app chain, except all of the users on all of these ecosystems can still deposit into 𝗵𝗵𝗶 in one click. Even from centralized exchanges, they can do that. So it's really about allowing businesses to like build with the best technology they want and still be able to access, like take payments or access users from anywhere.
I hope in this next cycle we have account abstraction and app chains like 𝗵𝗵𝗶 can handle fiat deposits. I think that's like a main, very just like tall barrier for normies to deposit liquidity, because they have to have a wallet, they have to get into they have to have gas, they have to have some crypto, and then all those are prerequisites to ultimately place a trade on a 𝗵𝗵𝗶 type app chain.
Yeah.
So if we have the fiat onboarding rails combined with account abstraction, and then it's like the chain, it's like we're unchaining this like mega liquidity source for the entire rest of the world to access.
100%. Yeah. We're doing fiat. We're integrating with fiat as well. And it's ironic because we do, we spend a lot of our time adding chains, but fiat is the biggest chain by like so many orders of magnitude. So yes, if we can get that experience really good too, then we're sorted.
Fiat is the biggest chain right now. That's based. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe we'll set a reminder, remind me of this in 10 years, see if fiat is still the biggest chain by liquidity.
What do you think? 10 years? I mean, I think we're definitely earlier than we think. I'm not saying that to like hype, but 10 years, maybe 10 years we have fiat like living on blockchains. Let's see.
Yeah, stable coins could I don't know. that could confuse some things.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
Is that still fiat? Is that on chain? I don't know.
Yeah. Is it really DeFi? Yeah. Who knows?
Find out next time on the Rollup.